My name is Bret Tennis. I'm the Operations Administrator for Garden of the Gods Park, and I'd like to welcome you to Garden of the Gods. We are a city park with the City of Colorado Springs. We're part of the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Services Department, and specifically we're part of Cultural Services. So there are lots of reasons to come and visit the park. If you've never made it here and you live in Colorado Springs, you are really missing out. People worldwide come visit Garden of the Gods, and there are lots of reasons for that. There's over 5.8 million visitors a year that come here, and there are lots of good reasons to see that. Here, you can see some of those reasons behind me. We are also a national natural landmark, and part of that distinction is because we are considered one of the best representations of the Front Range. The Front Range is where the prairie life zones are coming together and colliding with the mountain and the montane life zones in the foothills. And so here behind me, you can see where we've got these short prairie grasses growing, and they're coming and they're mixing with these foothills, the shrubs and the bushes. And then as it goes further towards the west, we're getting into pinyon juniper on the ridges here, dominated by our 1C juniper trees, our Rocky Mountain juniper trees, and then it goes into this cascade of geology of the rocks. So many different rock formations. There are 9 different rock formations in Garden of the Gods. It's kind of a geologist's dream world to play in. Lots of learning, lots of things to see. As you continue west, you're getting into the higher elevations, the montane and the mountain environments, and that brings all this vegetation, all the plants that bring with them the wildlife, and they mix and they mingle here in Garden of the Gods. There's not too many places where you can get animals like Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep sharing and feeding in the same habitat as prairie rattlesnakes. All can be seen here, lots of good views, lots of things, lots of ways to recreate, mountain biking, hiking, photography. We're also part of the Colorado Birding Trail. There are lots of different bird species here. It's always good to start at the Visitor and Nature Center. It's your introduction to the park, your gateway to the park. You can get a free map, lots of information, shopping, dining. All that's going to help to support the park. Every penny spent at the Visitor and Nature Center goes to supporting the park. So Garden of the Gods is a little over 1,300 acres in size. There's over 20 miles of hiking trails, and there's a little over 6 miles of road. You can actually drive in and throughout the park, and the trails are a mixture. They're all considered easy to moderate trails, but there are paved trails as well as dirt trails. So there's some accessibility for everybody. The Central Garden Trail is 1.5 miles, and it's at the base of the big red rock formations. And it'll be a great place if it's your first time here, or a good place to start. We're here at the Central Garden at our new overlook, where you can see the rocks, the hogbacks coming out of the ground, off to the distance, the Cheyenne Mountain. Again, you know, it's a great place where the life zones are colliding here, where the prairie plains are coming and meeting with the foothills and meeting with the mountains. So you have the prairie life zones mixing in with the montane and the mountains, all here at Garden of the Gods. Where we were looking at the prairie grasses, we're just about a 1/2 mile into the park now, and there's a big change. Here you can start to see where the foothills, the pinyon juniper is just now starting to give away to a little higher elevation life zone where ponderosa pines and the taller trees are starting to mix in. You go just a little bit more west and you get a lot more of that montane environment with the ponderosa pines standing nice and tall. Mixed in here is the Cliff Islands, a unique habitat where these rock formations provide unique habitats that work well for some of our local wildlife, like our feathered friends, the white-throated swifts. These small little, very fast-flying birds that are zipping around in and out of the rocks, utilizing the holes in the rocks here. If you're able to see these holes and these cracks that are all over the rock and the cliff face, it's like an apartment complex for birds. There are a lot of species of birds that share the Garden of the Gods. We have a large population of brown bats. There are different bats in the park, but brown bats congregate in the most numbers here, and you can see those in the evenings. Swifts, as I mentioned, there's American kestrels, there's songbirds like our canyon wrens with a beautiful cascading sound that can be heard early in the mornings or late in the evenings. There's prairie falcons that live right up on the rock just here. Common ravens are over in what we call the Tower of Babel. Just a little bit further down to Gray Rock is a family of red-tailed hawks that come back every year. That's a lot of raptors in a small area, and that's because there's so many other birds that are a good food source for them. It allows them to share this environment together. And that's just a good example of how Garden of the Gods, with these combined ecosystems and life being thrust and colliding together here, allows all of them to live together in Garden of the Gods. Lots of good sights to see. Garden of the Gods was designated a National Natural Landmark in 1971. We still have the original plaque on display here in the Chuck Wagon Pavilion. Part of the reason was that the Garden of the Gods is considered the best representation of the Front Range. The Front Range is a big area. It covers far south, far north. It's where the prairie is coming together with the mountains, but nowhere else is it as grand or as beautiful as it is in Garden of the Gods. These rock formations over 325 feet are at the highest point anywhere else with this lion's formation. That's the name of the type of rocks here, and they're sandstone. And this red rock is actually the same type of sandstone as the white rock here. There's a lot of geology that could be learned inside Garden of the Gods. We hope you'll take advantage of some of our educational programs to learn more about that. There's a lot of history and culture that has been associated at Garden of the Gods before it was named Garden of the Gods and before it was a city park. We credit the Ute or the Nuchu as being the original inhabitants of this area. They spent their summer months and part of that year in South Park, a lot further west, almost 100 miles away. And they would come further down in the winter and they would camp right around this same area in Garden of the Gods. There's a lot of history and culture. We hope you come and learn more. Garden of the Gods became a city park in 1909, and that was the result of a gift from Mr. Charles Perkins. You can see on the plaque behind me that it reads, "The Garden of the Gods, given to the city of Colorado Springs in 1909 by the children of Charles Perkins, in fulfillment of his wish that it be kept forever free to the public." The gift was given to the city so that it would be a park for people to enjoy as they wished, and there were some conditions, some rules to that gift. One of those is that it would always remain free to the public. You can always come visit the park. There would be the plaque commemorating the gift, honoring Mr. Perkins and his family for their generosity, that there would be no buildings except for those necessary to maintain and operate the park allowed to be built inside the park boundaries. Alcohol would not be sold or produced inside the park. And another is that the name shall always remain Garden of the Gods. We're very grateful for the gift. Mr. Perkins was the original landowner of this area. He had 480 acres that was donated to the city of Colorado Springs, and we have since increased that size to a little over 1,300 acres today. We hope you'll come out and enjoy the Garden of the Gods and explore it on your own as well. We hope to see you soon.